San Francisco 49ers starting cornerback and ascending star Deommodore Lenoir had time this morning. You might be asking me, Brad, well, what are you talking about? Well, what I am talking about is Manti Te'o, Notre Dame linebacker who got into one of the most infamous catfishing scandals, I guess you could say, of all time. And the reason why I'm mentioning that will come into play. But he was on, I believe it was Good Morning Football. He was in one of the NFL Network shows talking about the San Francisco 49ers and essentially discussing why that he believes the 49ers are emotionally drained. And because of this, they will likely fall short in 2024. Now, I'll play the clip really quickly of exactly what Manti Te'o was saying. But Deommodore Lenoir came in with a fierce response, which we'll play after you listen to what Manti Te'o said. So, Te'o said this on the NFL Network, and then we will share Demo's clapback right after this.
So there's a look that you see when somebody truly believes they're better than you. And I think for the past 5 to 10 years, we've got so accustomed to the San Francisco 49ers walking around not only the NFC West, but the NFL in general as these big bullies. You watch Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel come out of the locker room with that bump box, and you watch them get into that scuffle in the pregame, and you watch their dominant defense and their run game. We got so accustomed to that. When I flipped on the TV and watched their past 2 preseason games when their starters played, and I just see an emotionally drained team. They've been to the NFC Championship 4 in the past 5 years. They've been to the Super Bowl twice, and they lost that Super Bowl to the same team. It reminds me of when I was with the Saints in 2017. We had the Minneapolis Miracle. We had to suffer that. That is just emotionally draining. Then the very next year, we play the Rams in the NFC Championship, and we have the no-call PI. We go through that. I can only imagine for the San Francisco 49ers what that feels like. And then I put on, we just saw the Seattle Seahawks preseason game, and you see that party that's in there.
Yeah.
The first drive, Geno Smith goes down there, hits Jackson Smith and Jigba, hits DK Metcalf, and that's without Kenneth Walker. That's without Tyler Lockett. And they're out there having a blast. Mike Robb's on there. Michael Bennett's on the broadcast. It's just a party. It's not the same, when I watch the San Francisco 49ers. So they're not the favorite for me.
Now you had a chance to listen to what Manti Te'o was talking about, what he had to say. Let's now take a look at Deommodore Lenoir's response to Manti Te'o. Whoo, boy. He said, this don't even matter. I used to have computer love too. Oh boy. And again, I said at the beginning, there's a reason why that I mentioned Manti Te'o and his infamous catfishing situation at Notre Dame. And again, if you're not familiar, the cliff notes of it is he thought he had a serious relationship with I think it was a fellow college student, and it became publicly known that that was actually a real woman. I think it was a guy who was catfishing him, and that was at the peak of like really not even having a term for what that situation was. I think at that time it was so new that whole thought process of the internet and relationships sparking up online, and so yes, that's what happened. I'm sure if you were around for that time, you remember it very well because it was one of the biggest stories in all of sports for a while, just because it was such a wild situation. There's probably a lot more details into it that I'm even giving it credit for. But that's just the high level cliff notes of how I remember it. So when Deommodore Lenoir says, I used to have computer love too, I think you can imagine what he's referencing and what he's talking about. So one of the things with Deommodore Lenoir that I absolutely love is this guy always stands on business. I don't think there's been an instance where Deommodore Lenoir has shied away from clapping back at someone, making his opinions known. And honestly, you have to have that as a cornerback. I feel like the cornerback position is such a difficult position. I liken it to offensive line because, again, you're in a position where you are having to go backwards while some of the best athletes in the world are running straight forward. And you have to be able to read and react and do all these different types of things. So it's a challenging position. Cornerback obviously having to cover some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And, there are going to be instances where you're going to get beat. That's no one's safe, even the best. So you have to have that kind of mentality where you are the best and you are going to be better than everyone. And regardless if you get beat, you're still chirping, you're still coming back at them. You have to have that mentality, short term memory, and you have to have that dog in you. And that's what I love about Deommodore is yes, he took a shot at Manti Te'o, but again, he's defending his team. He's defending the notion that the 49ers aren't going to be emotionally drained and they aren't going to fall short. Basically Manti Te'o saying like, I don't even count these guys winning the West, let alone getting back to the Super Bowl. And these guys hear these things and they take offense to it. They don't agree with that thought process. Now, with this whole situation, with the Super Bowl loss, Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk, disaster of negotiations at this particular point, yes, can that be draining? Absolutely. Steve Young talked about it on KMBR yesterday of how that's a real distraction for these guys in the locker room as someone who played at a very, very high level. But also, it is important to note that this core group of players has probably gone through as much adversity than any other core group of players in the past 10 years. You think of all the losses that Manti Te'o's talked about. You think of the 2020 injury riddled season. You think of the them having to go through three quarterbacks to land on Brock Purdy. You think of the NFC Championship, they have gone through so much adversity that yes, will there be some lingering effects from all this offseason stuff and I'm sure there is. But while I would say that, I would also say this is the best group in the NFL to be able to withstand that. This is the best group in the NFL to be able to overcome that. The best chance to turn that L into a lesson and rebound. So, although there are some things that are still hanging out with the San Francisco 49ers that are a distraction and that will likely, have an impact, this is still a team that is constructed of a lot of really good players and a lot of really pissed off players. And I think this team thrives off doubt. And so when you have guys like Manti Te'o come out and say this, they take it personally. And I think Deommodore is taking it personally. And I like that. I like that our players are personally invested in the success of this season, and they're not going to let anyone else say differently. So I appreciate that. It makes me it makes me feel a little bit better about the ongoing situations that a guy like Demo saying that doesn't even matter. And to a point, he might be absolutely right. So Deommodore Lenoir had some time this morning. I thought it was funny, some good comic relief to kind of break up the stress of the current situation the 49ers are under. And yeah, I like that. Hopefully you liked it too. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.